Hello everybody and welcome to my half of this week's chapter review for One Piece chapter 795, Suicide. Holy fucking shit. Oda, you've done it again. You've taken our expectations and handed it to us and then just wouldn't stop. It's like, the guy says, owes you some money and he says, oh, so I'm expecting, X amount of money, so I'll say, alright, fine. He puts the bills down, and I see, oh, he's put enough bills down. He's covered me. He's good. But no, Oda just decided to keep throwing bills out. I am seriously fucking pissed, and once again, Oda's also done something which he loves to do, which is seriously piss me off with one thing, but then in the same chapter do something that makes me really, really hyped and happy, and just really piss me off that I can't stay angry at him. I am thrilled with, beyond a shadow of a doubt, to finally see Sanji after, like, what, I think a year and 7 months, 8 months, something like that. But he kind of glances over how they escaped the predicament with Big Mom, and then does something even more unthinkable. Starts them on them apparently doing something else with some other people on this island, which I can only hope is Zoe, since that's where they were supposedly going. Or after their escape, they must have ended up near some other island, maybe, possibly, who knows. So anyway, this showcases a lot of weird things. You have this guy who's chasing Sheep's Head Sama, who looks like the spitting image of friggin' Frankie, which could be possible, because remember, Frankie's parents were pirates, but we don't know what became of them because they were just insignificant at the time. Is this guy Frankie's father? Probably not, but there's always hope, because Oda puts in a lot of interesting details and foreshadowings into his manga. Now, the main thing I want to cover is the thing that everyone is freaking out over, and that is the huge reveal of Kaido's design, and how he just looks insanely monstrous, and he has this weird, like, scale attached to his left arm with the skull on it. He has a long mane of hair, some giant-ass whiskered mustache type thing, horns, just muscular beyond belief, with a scar, like, on his right abdomen, like, side/side area. This guy is just monstrous and towers over the members of the Kid Alliance. So the thing that we have to find most important about this is the fact that this is huge. That we now have an official, we now officially know all 4 of the Yonkos live. Big Mom, I would like to see her in full, more in full next time, but we've seen them all. But the interesting thing is we also got some unexpected characterization from Kaido, and the fact is that this man is supposedly immortal, and the fact that he, has been beaten, captured, tortured, and even given the death penalty several times, and he still hasn't died. And it's gotten to the point where he's actually now has a hobby committing suicide, because he has nothing better to do. So what if he's a Yonkai? He just has nothing better to do, and he wants to. So this guy is just, and the implications of this is just astounding, and what it could possibly mean. Now, whether or not the Kid Alliance is going to get out of this alive or not, most likely. I feel that Kaido, especially since now he's talking about starting the last, he seems to be sort of very out of touch when it comes to recent news. Now, some people are saying he's so out of touch he doesn't even know that Whitebeard's dead, but I think he does know that. Whereas with the news, obviously, just having gone up to a Sky Island to jump off of it, he probably doesn't know about Joker being defeated by Luffy. And he'll probably find that out in the next chapter, assuming we even see him in the next chapter. Because, Oda could just be showing us, okay, now you finally have the design, and then Moose is going to move on to something else for the next chapter. So, And then, like I said earlier, the stuff with Sanji was amazing, but I would like for him to go back and actually, showcase that kind of stuff that he did for us, and that it was really, really, really important that he does that. It's important because it will be relevant to the story later on about how they got out, because obviously that'll implicate how much more mad or less mad, if that's the case, that Big Mom would be with the crew. So, but then, like I said earlier, he decided to have them go on a little adventure on the island. So I'm curious. Now we need to find out what happened with that too, because what that all significance is. So overall, this was one freaking amazing chapter. Now, normally I'd probably be like freaking out over this chapter, and I was earlier today. But it's unfortunately due to certain circumstances. This was recorded later in the day, so I've gone throughout my day and I've calmed down and pretty much simplified my thoughts on the matter. So overall, this was one stellar chapter, and I can't wait to see more. And just for those of you who are counting, this is the 95th chapter of the Dressrosa arc. Technically, since they haven't left, this is still the Dressrosa arc. And if for some reason Oda finds a way to keep this arc going for another 13 chapters, it'll tie with the entire being as equally as long, or should I say not tie, but be equally as long as the entire Whitebeard War of the Best saga is. Which, just to make sure you guys understand what that length is, that would be the first chapter where they got to the second half, or finished the first half of the Red Line, got to the Red Line again, and then ended with the end of Three Brothers arc, where the very next chapter was actually the first chapter post time skip. So that was 108 chapters. So, and this is 95 chapters so far. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see how this all comes together. So I hope you all enjoyed this review, and if you haven't already, listen to Strider's part of the review, and hope to see you all next week for another amazing chapter of One Piece.
Alright, it's time to talk about that beautiful chapter that is One Piece. 795. Alright, where do we start with this fucking awesome chapter? I don't know. Alright, let's talk a little bit about the fact that we'll start at the beginning because that is the least interesting, I think, of the major, drops that we got. So Fujitora has decided, as you know, Fujitora has decided not to go after the Straw Hats, at least for the one night, because of a gamble. Now, why he's even gambling that in the first place, well, I can see some people are thinking that's sort of weak in a reason for bringing down the Straw Hats in law, especially when he told Akainu just before, that's exactly how I want it. So, I mean, I do kind of find it a bit weak, but at least it's consistent with his character. I'll give him that. I mean, I don't even care about the Rebecca page. At least she's not crying. Um, there's nothing interesting there to talk about. There's a page. So now we'll talk about Sanji. We finally saw Sanji. It's about fucking time, Oda. Oh, by the way, the cover page was fine. But yeah, we finally fucking saw Sanji and Co. And it looks like Caesar is free. It kind of looks like that. To the point where it looks like he's phasing, unless it's just not shown that he has the cuffs on. But it looks like he's free. But as we would probably guess by now, Caesar would get his ass whipped by Sanji if he tried anything. After what we just saw Luffy and Zoro do, there's no doubt that Sanji would destroy Caesar if he tried anything big. And of course, Nami being Nami, with a little bit of fan service, but not really much to speak of. But yeah, I mean, Sanji, we get to see a new attack. So I don't know if we ever seen Mutton Shot before. I don't know, but it looks the same as everything else that Sanji does. But it was fine. We at least got to see something from Sanji. We at least got to see him attack. We got to see him again. Brooke, and of course the woman who looks oddly familiar. Kind of looks like Baby Five if she visited Thriller Bark or something. Um, but yeah, I mean, the interesting thing is their dialogue where they're like, we haven't gotten the samurai. He hasn't even appeared after all we've done. So, are they talking about Kanjuro? Are they talking about um, not what's his name? Momonosuke's father. All of a sudden, I'm forgetting his name. What's his name? Yeah, or could he be talking about Zoro? Um, Kinemon. Could he be talking about Zoro? Could he be talking about Kinemon? Could he be talking about Law, even? Um, or could it be um, the girl that they're looking for that is in one panel where she's like hiding? Um, I don't know. Guess we'll find out. But by far, by fucking far, the most interesting part about this chapter was Kaido. Are you fucking kidding me? He looks amazing. Oda stepping up his game with the artwork as well as story because that little narration. Look, like I said before, I could give a shit about Kid. I should give a shit about Apu or Hawkins or Rogue. Um, but everything, dude, fucking Kaido. That narration, the fact that he's tried to kill himself and cannot because of how freaking strong this man is. He cannot even kill himself. He jumped off a sky island, roughly what was it? Roughly 10,000 meters in the air. Okay, can you imagine? Like, what is it? A thousand meters is a kilometer. So, like 10 kilometers. Can you imagine falling 10 kilometers? Um, can you imagine running 10 kilometers first off? Running 10 kilometers, I mean, people can do it, but imagine running a marathon of 10 kilometers and then imagine falling that entire distance. Now that is crazy. Yeah, just imagine running 1 mile, which is nothing like 10 kilometers, mind you, 1 mile, and then imagine falling that distance. Like, what? He jumped, rather. He jumped 10,000 meters or 10 kilometers down, and he only hurt his head. No visible scratches on this man. This is one of the greatest introductions to any character in One Piece. It just is. Um, I mean, I don't know. Is there anybody better? Even Mihawk. Mihawk had an awesome introduction by kicking the shit out of Zoro and just instilling fear into everybody. But the introduction with the narration about um, him trying to take his own life. All the ropes have snapped when he tried to be hung. The guillotine snapped when it tried to cut his head off. Spears break when he's stabbed. Mind you, that Whitebeard was able to be stabbed, even though, yes, he was in his old age, but he was still boasting the world's strongest man title. Kaido doesn't even flinch a blade. Okay? And yes, the spear has better penetration than a sword, but that's besides the point. I won't go there. That's an entirely different rant. Okay, he suffered 10,000 kinds of torture. Okay, now here is the one thing that is sort of that's one of the things that we have to discuss is the fact that he has been defeated 7 times in his life. Now, we have to take that in some sort of light here. When were those 7 defeats, and by whom? Well, you know, we're assuming that Kaido wasn't always as strong as he is now. He wasn't always a Yonko or Yonko level. So it could be that maybe 6 of those 7 defeats, or even all of them, were prior to um, him becoming a Yonko. So we just don't know. But I'm gonna be bold here. I'm gonna make a short theory that one of those defeats was at the hands of Shanks. One of them seems to be at the hands of Whitebeard because of the way he stated Whitebeard did a number on me out of nowhere. I don't know why that came out after he jumped off Sky Island. Um, I'm not really sure about that, but um, yeah. I mean, what was I talking about? Oh, yeah, the defeats. So quickly I forgot because my mind trailed off while I was rereading the chapter. I believe one of them seems to have been at the hands of Whitebeard because of the way he said Whitebeard did a number on me. He boasted the strongest man, so I'm assuming that since Kaido is now considered the strongest person, uh, I'm assuming that before it was clear that Whitebeard was stronger than Kaido. Not more durable though, that I will say. Um, and it seemed like Urog is like allies with Kaido, whatever. Um, but yeah, I'm going to assert that one of those defeats was at the hands of Shanks. Um, and maybe when they fought before Shanks stopped the Marineford War because they had a brief scrap. Now knowing what we do, perhaps he had gone on to fight Shanks in an attempt to kill himself. He wanted because he thought maybe Shanks could kill him. But it seemed to have ended in a tie, or Shanks won. We don't know, but it seems to have ended in somewhat of a tie. Uh, so maybe he had grown since then. You don't know. Uh, I'm sure we'll get more exposition later. Maybe we'll even know about the whole thing about Kaido versus Shanks. We don't know, but maybe we will know. I hope so, because that was very interesting. Um, but yeah, we finally get to see what he looks like in pretty much in full. I mean, we haven't seen past we didn't see the whole his entire being because some of it's covered up by smoke or like the smoke and dust that he kicked up from falling. But I mean, we see like 90% of him, and he looks bad fucking ass, dude. Kaido. I am hyped about this guy just from this chapter. All right, this man looks amazing. He looks like a Chinese warlord. Now, if you recall, I said that Gear 4th also looked like it had some Chinese influence. Could this be a correlation? I don't know. But given that they were supposed to go after Kaido first, and they both seem to have Chinese influence, maybe there's a correlation. Maybe there isn't. Again, I'm just pointing out the facts. But I guess the last thing I want to say is the whole thing. He seemed to be very angry at Joker or Doflamingo, and it said, "The world can just crumble for all I care. It's time to start the biggest war of the century." And he said something similar in the stream translation where he said, "It's going to be a match of, like, light the match of it, whatever." Same thing. So apparently he's going to wage a war, and it's not going to be pretty. So, needless to say, this chapter was fucking amazing. We got so much more than we expected. Now, granted, we do know that Sanji and Ko have left Big Mom's ship. It was stated in narration that they managed to escape. So, I'm assuming Big Mom was probably not on that ship, and it wasn't important enough for us to see it. Because I firmly believe that if it wasn't important enough to see, Big Mom wasn't on that ship. Um, so yeah, that's it, guys, for me. Thank you guys for listening, and we'll see you all next week.